Hello, everyone. Depending on where you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have another live session to discuss the latest updates in the world of immigration. I am currently live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and also on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions, please post your questions. I'll do my best to answer your questions after I'm done with the review of the latest updates in the world of immigration to Canada. And boy, oh boy, I have so many updates for you. So let's stick with those updates before I answer your questions. And of course, after that, if I have any questions, I will answer them. So let's take a look at the latest news. The first and biggest piece of news is the fact that the immigration authorities decided to invite more people to apply under the parents and grandparents programs. For those of you who are not familiar with the program, I have another article on our website that I explain the parents and grandparents sponsorship program and how it works. But simply put, if you are a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident of Canada, that you meet the minimum necessary income and other required compulsory aspects of this program. And as you can see, it's a long, long list here, but the big one is the financial requirements. You can sponsor your parents or grandparents and even their children to Canada if they are considered dependent children. Having said that, this program is very popular among applicants, and that's why the government has put a cap on it. They try to accept only 20,000 applications per year. And the way that they handle it is that they open a pool. People show their expression of interest for entering the pool of express entry, sorry, the pool of PGP applications or parents and grandparents, and then they select some of them based on a draw. The last time the government created a pool was in 2020. They invited 10,000 people at that time. They later used the same pool to invite another 30,000 people. And in 2022, the government has decided not to create a new pool, but invite another 23,100 applicants under the same pool that they opened in 2020. The problem here is that some of those people, they have moved on, they do not meet the requirements of the program anymore, etc. And that's the reason the government has went beyond 20,000 invitations. They want to make an invitation for 23,100 people. And what they are hoping is that out of those 23,100 people, at least there are 15,000 to 20,000 that they qualify and they can continue their program. So the good news is that if you already entered the pool of PGP in 2020, then you may be selected this year because now we have less people in the pool and more chances of being selected. But the bad news is that if you didn't enter the pool in 2020, unfortunately, you cannot enter the pool today, and you probably need to wait for next year to see if the government changes their mind and they create another pool for parents and grandparents. If you're not familiar with the parent and grandparent program, we have the news on settler.ca, and I have also published the details of this program as an article. If you're on YouTube, after this video, I will post the links to those articles beneath our YouTube channel video. But if you are on other platforms, you can just go on settler.ca and look for these articles. Okay, so that's number one list. The other big piece of news is about the international students. So if you are an international student and you are studying at a post-secondary level and you're a full-time student, then you may also work up to 20 hours per week without a work permit. So in other words, international students in Canada, they are permitted to work outside their campus for up to 20 hours per week and get paid without and the need to have another work permit. That's one of the benefits of studying in Canada. But recently, we are also facing labor shortages in Canada to the point that, for example, the province of Ontario has a labor shortage of up to 400,000 people. Overall, the labor shortage in Canada is close to 1 million people. And one immediate solution to this labor shortage is to allow the international students to study in Canada. And that's why the government of Canada decided to temporarily allow international students to work unlimited number of hours outside their campus. Keep that in mind that if you are an international student, you still need to, let me show this picture to be bigger than me. So you still need to adhere with the requirements of your study. So in other words, you need to be registered at a designated learning institution. This needs to be a post-secondary diploma. You need to pursue your studies and study full-time. So you cannot stop studying. You cannot reduce the number of hours of your studies. But if you want to work beyond 20 hours per week, that's absolutely fine. You can do that. This extension of permission is from November 15th, 2022. So right now, still, it's not in place. So it's about 1 month and 3 days from today that you may start working full time or whatever number of hours you need. So there will be no limitations until the end of December 2023. So that would be extended for about 1 year and 1.5 months, roughly, that international students may work full time in Canada. And I think this will be also a test run for the government of Canada to see how this system works, and they may decide whether to extend it beyond December 31st, 2023 or not. But this is huge for international students in Canada. This means that they can make even more money legitimately with the permission received from the immigration authorities, and that could contribute to their financial status in Canada, and also that could contribute to our economy. So remember that this permission has not been issued right now. You can do this on or after November 15th, 2022. Okay, the next piece of news that I would like to share with you is about cannabis. So cannabis, weed, whatever you want to call it, has been legalized in Canada for a while now. I believe it was in 2019 that it was, or 2018 that it was legalized. Sorry, October 2018. So this means that for personalized use, even for recreational purposes, it is legalized for Canadians to smoke weed or use cannabis products. However, this is only for inside Canada. You need to keep that in mind that you cannot have cannabis with you when you are at the airport, you are leaving Canada, or you are entering Canada. So if the police finds out that while you are at the airport or land crossing and you are transferring Canada inside Canada or outside Canada, they could actually catch you, they could actually fine you, and you can face legal consequences of doing such an action. So be careful. We are not allowed to import or export even small amounts of weed or other cannabis products from Canada or to Canada. Moreover, remember that because majority of Canadians go to the United States, you need to keep in mind that although some of the states in the United States, they have legalized cannabis, but not all these states have legalized it. And also, it is illegal under the federal law. So in other words, if somebody tries to enter the United States with weed or cannabis products, they could face criminal charges in the United States, which also could affect their Canadian immigration status or their efforts to travel to or immigrate to other countries. So you have to be very careful with that as well. We have tried to put together just a report about this situation and show you that you have to be very careful in that regard, especially when you are traveling to the United States or other countries, or if you are traveling back from Europe or other countries. Make sure that you do not have any cannabis products. Look into your luggage, make sure to dispose of them. Don't try to go to Canada or leave Canada with those products. We have also included a video from the Government of Canada that tries to explain this. We also have some statistics published by our journalist here. It's quite interesting. In just 2021 alone, the CBSA, or Canada Border Services Agency, made around 22,779 cannabis seizures, totaling 16 tons of cannabis, 16 and a half tons actually, 16,498 kilograms. So be careful. That could have serious consequences for you. Hi, still lost. Okay, there's another thing that I would like to share with you is that the about the non-official languages in Canada. You need to know that Canada welcomes lots of immigrants in Canada. So if you travel to Canada, can you also speak your own language? Canada has two official languages, French and English. So if you know any of those languages, then there are official documents by Canadian government or provinces that support those languages. And if you go to any government office, it is very likely that you will find a person who speaks at least one of those two languages. Now, the distribution is not even, with the exception of the province of Quebec, which its official language is French, and with the province of New Brunswick, that it's bilingual. The rest of the provinces, their official language, or the first language, if you will, is the English language. This means that you may enter an office that not many people know the French language. Having said that, this French is just like English is our official language, and you will eventually find services in your official language. However, even if you don't know the official languages of Canada, or you don't know them enough, you'll be surprised to know that there are many other languages in Canada that are widely spoken and they are widely being understood in Canada. For example, if you look at the top 10 languages, you'll find out that about 531,000 people have mentioned that their first non official language is Mandarin, which is the Chinese language. About 520,000 people mentioned Punjabi. Another 393,000 mentioned you or Cantonese. 317,000 Spanish. 286,000 Arabic. 275,000 Tagalog, which is the Filipino language. 179,000 is Persian languages, which is spoken by Iranians, Afghan people, Tajik people, and other people. 158,000 Urdu, which is mostly spoken in Pakistan. 126,000 roughly Russian, and 125,000 Korean. So these are the top 10 languages, non-official languages in Canada, meaning that if you are in major urban areas such as Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, it is very likely that you will find a person who speaks one of these 10 languages, just in case if you're stuck in a bank or somewhere else and you cannot speak perfect or proper English or French languages, you hopefully find somebody in these languages to assist you. If you want to know more, I will post the link to this article under my YouTube video. So if you are watching us from other platforms, you can later come to our YouTube video and see these links as well. And the other thing that you need to know is that the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, which is in charge of immigration hearings, they have actually moved from just in-person hearings since 2020 to also virtual hearings and sometimes hybrid hearings. The Immigration Refugee Board of Canada is the largest administrative tribunal in Canada. It has 4 divisions. The immigration division mostly deals with inadmissibility hearings and also immigration detention review hearings. The immigration appeal division deals with the appeals of the immigration division decisions. On top of that, it focuses on appeals of sponsorship applications, certain removal orders that were directly issued by CBSA or immigration authorities. And this immigration appeal division also is one of the divisions of IRB. We also have the refugee protection division, which is probably the busiest division of all. It deals with the refugee hearings that were filed at a port of entry in Canada or inside Canada. And we have refugee appeal division, which deals with the appeals hearings of the decisions made by Refugee Protection Division, whether the appeal was submitted by the applicant or submitted by the immigration authorities. Regardless of which division you're dealing with, now in fall of 2020 and moving forward, the Immigration Refugee Board may run hearings online that they usually use the Microsoft Teams, which I have been actually all my hearings since January of 2021. They have been all online. But now they also offer in-person hearings for certain cases, mostly if they are convinced that online hearing is not a proper hearing. So that's why you may have a combination of virtual hearings, hybrid hearings, or in person. And hybrid means that partly it could be in person, partly it could be online. For example, one person is uh, uh, present at the IRB office and the other person is online. And IRB has many offices um, in Canada, and depending on the situation, you will be invited to attend one of those hearings. I personally, I'm a fan of virtual hearings since the 2021. As I mentioned, all my hearings were online, and because of that, I've had hearings in Vancouver. I'm based in Toronto, but I've had hearings in Vancouver, in Edmonton, in Montreal, and I didn't even need to move to those cities to assist my clients. I was just doing this online without moving from my office. So that's another interesting piece of news to know. And then if we go back to our immigration news, let me see if they have anything. Oh, let's take a quick look at the processing times. Unfortunately, we're still dealing with delays in terms of processing of visa and immigration applications. We have huge backlogs for citizenship applications, visa applications, work permits, study permit, permanent residence applications, all different kinds of applications. And that's partly because since COVID-19, many of the officers have not returned to their offices yet. Some of the offices are working with partial capacity. And of course, the request for processing come in. The government has invested money, hired new personnel to assist with reducing the backlog, but it's a good idea to take a look at the data right now. For example, the citizenship grant or application for citizenship has now dropped to 25 months from the 27 months. So it's not a huge drop, but at least we are seeing some improvement. Certificate of proof of citizenship still takes a very long time, 17 months. Resumption of citizenship, 23 months. Renunciation of citizenship, 17 months. Search of citizenship records, 16 months. And citizenship of adopted persons, about 12 months. Again, it depends on the complexity of the case. And in terms of spousal sponsorship now, for inside Canada applications, the processing time has dropped to 14 months, which is great because the promised processing time is 12 months. So we are getting so close to that. For outside Canada, it's about 22 months. And I see this among my clients. Majority of my outside Canada clients, they are being processed under 12 months, but unfortunately, some of them are extended. Right now, I'm dealing with a case that has actually passed the 24 months. It's been now almost 26 months since we submitted the application. But this one is an exceptional situation. Majority of applications are now being processed for outside Canada under 18 months, in some cases even under 12 months. Inside Canada, the same story. But at the end of the day, um, expect some delays. And for parents and grandparents, unfortunately, we see an increase in the processing time. It is now 37 months, which means that will take more than 3 years for processing most of those applications. And for adopted child or relatives, it depends on the situation. In terms of processing time for temporary resident applications, if you apply inside Canada, it's about 15 days. If you apply online, 41 days. If you apply on paper, it's interesting because application by paper was processed quicker a few months back than online applications. Many people switched over to paper-based applications, and now we see delays for paper-based applications. So maybe it's a good time to go back for online applications. For extension or visitor records, it's about 201 days. It means now it takes about 6 months to process a visitor record application, which is crazy, by the way. For parents and grandparents, super visa, it varies by the country. For a study permit, if you are inside Canada, it's about 4 weeks, so it's pretty quick. If it's about extensions, it could take 61 days or 2 months. And for outside Canada, roughly speaking, it's about 13 weeks or 4 months. Again, depending on the situation, it could vary. Remember that these processing times are calculated based on 80% of the applications. For the other 20%, it could be way longer than what you see here. So it doesn't mean that you actually will see a realistic number, but it can give you an idea what to expect. Again, for work permits, it all depends on which country you are applying. If it's from inside Canada, it's about, roughly speaking, about 5.5 months. And for most of my clients, that's the case. It takes about 5.5 months, but I've had cases that their application was processed sooner or later than 167 days for work permit application inside Canada. And by the way, for work permit outside Canada, I can tell you that it all depends on the visa office, and it completely unpredictable because when I submit applications outside Canada in the past couple of years, I've had cases that they were processed under 3 months. I've had cases that it has extended way beyond 1 year for being processed. So unfortunately, it's very difficult to predict the exact processing time if you're applying from outside Canada. Remember, this is not about applications at the port of entry. If you are from a visa exempt country, for example, like Western Europe, European countries, from Chile, from Mexico, from Japan, from the United States, your application for work permit could be processed at the port of entry in most cases, and that's an immediate processing. You, the same day, you will receive the results for most of those applications. And for international experience class, international experience Canada or IEC, it depends on the country. For ETA, for most people, it just takes about 5 minutes because it's being done by artificial intelligence. But if the system finds a problem, then they will ask you to submit more documents. Also, they randomly select about 5-10% of the applications, and an officer will look into that application. Then they will issue the ETA, or electronic travel authorization. And in those situations, it could take a couple of hours to be processed, or sometimes a couple of days to be processed. That's why apply for the ETA way before traveling to Canada. Don't wait for the last minute, because sometimes it goes wrong. And I can tell you that for a fact, because before COVID, I had more than 500 ETA applications per year, or roughly speaking, 500 applications, ETA applications per year. And we could clearly see that for 430 of them, everything was in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. For the other 50, 70, 80 applications, we had cases that they were processed in 2 hours, and cases that they requested further documentation. Obviously, if the officer believes that you are inadmissible to Canada, then that could take several weeks to process your application. We also have applications for permanent residents. For example, the Canadian Experience class takes about 17 months. For caregivers, it could usually be around 27 months to be processed. For provincial nominee program applications, it means that you already have the approval of the province and you're applying for permanent residence. It's 15 months. For non-express entry PNP, 23 months. For self-employed persons, we're sitting at 41 months. It means that 3.5 years of processing time. For federal skilled trades program, unfortunately, it's 47 months. So it's a very long processing time. For federal skilled worker program, it's 26 months. Just as a reminder, federal skilled worker program, federal skilled trades program, and Canadian experience class, they all fall under express entry system. For the Atlantic immigration program, it's 15 months. Quebec skilled workers, 24. Quebec business class, 65 months. It's a huge mess under business class, and that covers investors program and also self-employed class. Keep that in mind, that for the investors program, they do not accept new applications nowadays. They actually put it on hold since July of 2019, and it still will be on hold for at least until April of 2023. In April 2023, we'll probably find out, or a few weeks before that, the fate of the investors program for Quebec. They may extend the hold, they may resume accepting applications, or they may stop the application completely. We don't have updates yet. If you visit our news page, we will update you as quickly as we hear about that. For humanitarian compassionate, it takes about 22 months, and refugees, it depends on where you're applying from. It's very difficult to predict this. And for protected persons who are inside Canada and they are applying for permanent residence, it takes them about 21 months to process the application. Again, personal experience could vary. For example, recently one of my protected person clients who applied for permanent resident, they process their application in under 1 year. So this could also be expedited depending on the complexity of the application. And I think that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you in terms of news. I have some articles recently that I published about immigration to Canada. So the latest article that I have is about PGB sponsorship in 2022. It's not a bad idea if you take a look at this article to familiarize yourself with this program, but keep that in mind that this year we will not have a new pool being opened for this program, and the government will invite people from the old pool that they opened in 2020. But however, maybe in 2023 they changed their mind. So it's a good idea if you know about the requirements. The eligibility versus admissibility, this is something that people kept asking me this question, and I decided to define that. When you apply for visa, permit, or immigration to Canada, the officers must review two things for you: your eligibility under that program and whether you are admissible to Canada or not. I have tried to expand on this two concepts and try to explain them. It's a brief article, but I think it gives you an idea what do they mean by eligibility and what do they mean by admissibility. For example, if you look at this picture, which is taken from an immigration profile, you see that there is a reference with a green highlight, a review of eligibility, and then we have two yellow highlights at a review of medical results and background checks, and those two are related to admissibility to Canada. So I will post the link to this article below my YouTube video. You can later read those articles as well. Or if you go on settler.ca, our website, you can actually locate my articles here and read them. I also have some guidelines about procedural fairness letter and getting a divorce while you are going through the process of immigration to Canada, etc. Okay, so let me see. There is so any idea about the results for Express Entry Draw 233? So I don't have any idea. So let me take a look at it. Express Entry Draw. Okay. Which one? 233? Which one do we have here? Okay, so we don't have the 233 yet, but considering that that last draw was on September 28th, it is very likely that the draw will be within the next couple of days. So it's very likely that we'll see a drop either today or tomorrow. It's very likely that we will see the draw this week. And the last draw, if you recall, the draw only invited 3,750, which is a record for 2022, but the score only dropped from 510 to 504. So we had only a 6-point drop in the CRS score. What is going to happen in the next one, which is 2020? 233, it is likely, if they continue the process, it is likely that they will invite more than 4,000 people, probably anywhere between 4,200 to 4,500 people. If that happens, we'll probably see another drop. Whether we will go beneath or below 500 points, it is unlikely that this happens this draw, but probably it will happen in the next draw. But again, that's just my speculation. What will really happen, we have to wait and see. Okay, if you have any more questions, please post them here. Just for those of you who are watching this video or the recorded version of it, my name is Al Parsai. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Actually, I have an unrestricted license. It means that I'm RCIC-IRB. I can also represent you to Immigration Refugee Board of Canada in your hearings, on top of representing you with your visa application, work permit application, etc. I have almost 12 years of experience under my belt as a licensed practitioner, and I have written a book called 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada, which has been identified as a bestseller by Amazon.ca a few times under the immigration law. I teach immigration courses at Ashton College, and I recently also did a course at Queen's University, and I've had clients from 56 countries so far, and hopefully we'll see more clients coming from other countries. So thank you very much for watching this video. I will be live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. ET, or Toronto time, Eastern time. And we will discuss the latest updates about the world of immigration. And I will also answer questions that you have. We'll also do our best to post recorded videos on our YouTube channel as well. So if you are on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel, enable notifications. If you are also on other platforms, please interact with us and let us know where you're coming from. Thank you again, and see you next week.